Lopping off someone's ding-a-ling doesn't make them a woman, it makes them a eunuch. But you already knew that, right? So, as I was saying, George Soros, Bill Gates, and many more are pursuing a depopulation agenda. Very inappropriate. Poison in the food, fake medicine, endocrine disruptors, psych meds, and mass immigration. They want to turn your kids gay, retarded, or both. David Hogg, Harry Sisson, and that one fat chick are the prototypes. Very off-putting. I don't often say the word yuck, but I think it fits here. Conspiracy theories, for the most part, are simply spoiler alerts. Alex Jones, paragon of truth and justice, has been saying these sorts of things for years, and it's high time we start paying attention.
Yes, 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 that was a deep fake. That was the future. If you want to glance and see a little bit through the looking glass, like what does our future look like? It is that deep fake version. They're starting to get the mouth right. That's been the thing with deep fakes and cheap fakes and AI and all these things. They were really struggling to get the mouth to line up correctly with the words. And then there was always this thing about the fingers. There was like a sixth finger out here, something like that. But they are perfecting it. Yes, that was fake, but be on the lookout for this stuff. Hello, I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It's May 13th, 2025. We are live streaming on Rumble, YouTube, and Locals. Share, subscribe, tap that notification bell. Post-game show, rubinreport.locals.com. And right after that, I will be jumping on a plane to go to Austin, Texas, where I will be speaking at the University of Austin this evening. And I will be in Austin tomorrow for a bunch of podcasts, Roseanne Barr, Jason Calacanis of the All In podcast, a couple other things. I might even see that Michael Malice guy, who knows? And it's a cool 103 degrees, I'm told, tomorrow in Austin. So I will be dousing myself in barbecue sauce and running around and seeing what happens. However, before we do any of that, we've got a big show for you today, a little bit more on the meltdown of the Democrat Party, which just continues to ramp up. And, you know, at this point, it's like, okay, let's just have fun with what's going on over there. Then Donald Trump now in the Middle East. We did report on this yesterday because it was happening while we were live on air, but the last American hostage underneath Gaza, Eden Alexander from New Jersey, is now home, and that is a miracle. There are 20 Israeli hostages still there, but the last American is out. And maybe Donald Trump is now in the Middle East to try to end the war, get the hostages home, sign some peace deals, maybe a normalization with Saudi Arabia. Who knows? We'll do all of that. We'll talk about some South African refugees that have now come to the United States. And guess what? The Democrats are not happy about these refugees because they're white and the Democrats are racist. So we'll do all of that and perhaps a bit more. Here we go. David Hogg, this kid, this child, this eunuch, who somehow has become a star in the Democrat Party. And I guess somehow, well, I guess it's kind of obvious. It's like they've just got nothing. So they're just throwing shit at a wall with all of these crazy people, right? You got Hamas people, you got the wafy 19-year-old kid, David Hogg, who got into Harvard despite not being qualified. Like, you've got just all of these terrible, he's like our version of Greta Thunberg, sort of. We've got all of these terrible people. And a few months ago, as we talked about, David was voted the vice chair of the Democrat National Committee. And this seemed rather odd because he's basically just a kid who has he's just never accomplished anything. Like, do you want someone who's at 19 years old is a lifelong politician? I don't know, probably not. But this from the New York Post. DNC panel votes to void David Hogg's election as Democratic vice chair. And this story is delicious, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to this. David Hogg put out a statement. Today, the DNC took its first steps to remove me from my position as vice chair at large. While this vote was based on how the DNC conducted its officers' elections, which I had nothing to do with, it is also impossible to ignore the broader context of my work to reform the party, which loomed large over this vote. Our country is in crisis, and too many leaders in the Democratic Party are asleep at the wheel. Trump is on a mission to crash our economy, disappear people without due process, and participate in flagrant public corruption, and voters still trust him more than Democrats. That is a massive indictment of our party. Last month, my organization announced that it would primary ineffective members of Congress who are not meeting the moment. In response, the DNC made it clear they were going to remove me due to the necessity of neutrality for the party. This is despite the fact that the DCCC and the DSCC and other party committees regularly get involved in primaries. Just this month, the Democratic Lieutenant Governors Association pledged a 7-figure ad spend to elect a candidate in a primary in Illinois. Past DNC vice chairs have endorsed candidates in primaries as well without any issue. I ran to be DNC vice chair to help make the Democratic Party better, not to defend an indefensible status quo that has caused voters in almost every demographic group to move away from us. The DNC has pledged to remove me, and this vote has provided an avenue to fast-tracking that effort. Okay, so long story short, it's the Godzilla moment. Nagasaki and Tokyo are being destroyed. Godzilla's going at it with Mothra. And the man is on the boat with the one tear saying, let them fight. That's where the Democrats are at. Whether it's, and what he's referencing there is, you may remember a clip we showed you about 2 weeks ago, James Carville, who's just like an old Democrat Party hack, basically was going off on David Hogg because Hogg wanted to primary some of the Democrats. And basically a guy like Carville, who's been in the machine forever, was like, hey, we have a system. It works, even though Carville's constantly criticizing the system. You're not going to go after our guys. Hogg just comes in and he's a young progressive and all they know how to do is burn things down. The idea that he would, just putting aside whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or anything else, that you would take a kid who has done nothing but become a sort of media darling, who really does not like America, who had several lies in there about Trump crashing the economy and unpersoning people and everything else, like that you would take a kid to run your party. Like, why wouldn't you take, I don't know, someone with business experience? The Republicans did that, and that guy became president. You might want to take someone with some life experience, someone who has kids, a little more skin in the game. Maybe, I don't know, you might even just age-wise. I'm not an ageist. You could be 19 and brilliant. I don't think he is. And you could be 80 and fantastic. I don't think Joe Biden was. But you might want to take someone who's probably between, say, 40 and 60 and has some life experience, who's accomplished some things, whose body and spirit are still strong and in the game. I don't know, you might want to do some of that, but you guys are Democrats, so do whatever the hell you want. Anyway, the machine does not know exactly what to do with Hogg because he sort of represents the crazy young energy that's scattered and just like lighting embers all over the place that the Democrats are into. But they also know he's deeply dangerous. Anyway, he went on Bill Maher and he got the coveted one-on-one interview. You know, when I went on, they usually put you on the panel, but he got the one-on-one with Bill, and he talked about how to bring young voters in and his little fight with James Carville.
But whenever I see someone your age talking politics, it's usually a Republican guy. I mean, that seems to be where all the energy and we know that the Democrats do have a problem with men.
Yes.
What are you going to do about that?
Well, I think, one, it's for us to acknowledge the fact that a lot of younger men, I think, agree with what Democrats are saying in terms of making sure that we're getting things cheaper. What's interesting about this moment is it feels like the two parties in some senses have flipped where, you know, Republicans used to be the judgmental assholes in many ways. And since many Democrats, despite us, I would say for most of us coming from the right place of wanting to do the right thing, we've created a culture where we say, well, if you say the wrong thing, you're excommunicated. And that's just not how human beings work. Nobody is perfect, but ultimately what we have to do here is figure out how to bring people back in and work towards the bigger goal of advancing the future of this country and helping young people especially get by so that they're able to focus on their lives and, you know, getting with a young woman or something like that instead of how are they going to pay their rent, for example, or how are they working their two jobs. Young people should be able to focus on what young people should be focused on, which is how to get laid and how to go and have fun.
Why is the establishment mad at you? This sounds like basic Democratic stuff. I mean, James Carville called you a contemptible little twerp.
Well, then he flipped as well. And he came around and he said, actually, the DNC should not remove David.
And you're not a twerp.
Exactly. Well, it's because, thank you. It's because, I think part of it, Bill, is because we have become very uncomfortable with having conversations with people who don't.
All right, first off, Bill, I gave you a lot of credit yesterday. I do have to fact check you there. He is a twerp. He is a little know-nothing twerp who they put in a suit and they do his hair up nice, and he pretends he has some sort of knowledge about how things work, and thus they were trying to install him as chair. He interestingly says, you know, he said the quiet part out loud because he says it comes from a good place with them. But David Hogg, I know you're young, but I'm going to teach you a phrase right now that most people know. It's about the road to hell. And you know what it's paved with? Good intentions. So I know you think that if you just gave the government enough power to do things for young people, or if you could rejigger the economy in the way that you wanted, or if you could just have all the power to tell all the people how they should live their lives, I know you think that would be good. But all of the bad things that have happened in the course of human history are because good people have a certain, or I don't want to call them good people, because people have good intentions. I can't speak to everyone's original, the genesis of their beliefs. But people generally think they're the good guy. Hitler thought he was the good guy. And that is what leads us to hell, right? It's not somebody saying, I'm doing bad, join me on my quest for evil. That's just not how it works. Now, interestingly, he does say, and it got a laugh, and there's something to it, that at the end of the day, young people, if you want just like a flourishing thing, you don't have to worry about your 2 jobs, so you could go get laid. Now, I say on the show all the time, don't people get laid anymore? Like when you see all these genderqueer weirdos with pink hair, obese losers, Hamas morons, and the rest of it, it's like, if you guys were getting laid, I do think you'd be a little bit happier. And basically, if you were getting laid, like if you were just basically getting laid consistently, and then your friend called you, your fat, obese, pink-haired friend who's got really bad acne and horrible teeth and bad breath, and they called you and they were like, you want to go to a Hamas rally? We're going to scare some Jews. You might be like, I just got laid and I think it might happen later. So I'm not going with you. That's true. But, and here comes the but. Getting laid is not everything in life. You also want to build a life that is sustainable and nourishing and that you can pass on some of the good stuff to the future. So just saying to people you should get laid is not good enough. Me saying occasionally you should get laid might just sort of help you think. Anyone that's ever had sex, you have sex and then afterwards you're like, I could deal with the world right now. Here's Charlie Kirk on something that's more important than just getting laid.
How nihilistic and also how dismissive of all the concerns that young people are feeling right now. The Democrats the last couple of years, and Hogg is half right about this, they have lost young people, especially young men. When I go to these college campuses, though, they don't just want to have more degeneracy or debauchery. They're looking for something greater, something higher. They're in the pursuit of something good and true and beautiful. Remember, if you're on a college campus right now, the very young people that we at Turning Point USA are winning over, large in part thanks to President Trump, you suffered under the lies and the deception of COVID, of wearing a mask while you shower, of the 9th booster shot, of the hyper-policing of every pronoun and every syllable that you say. And they want something greater than that, not something darker and something that is rooted in a cynical worldview. And David Hogg is so dismissive of young people that want to have a mission, that want to have meaning, that don't just want to pursue what makes them feel good, but instead young people increasingly want to do good.
Yeah. That's right. And that's why I'm saying, to young people, should you probably get laid more? And when I say get laid, it's also just like go out and enjoy your life. Yes, of course, as opposed to just being miserable and sitting behind a computer and attacking people and using the cloak of anonymity to destroy the world and being an endless narcissist and navel gazing and trolling and all those things. So I don't mean purely just like in the most literal sense, go out and get laid, like go out and enjoy your life. But that's not all of it. Charlie hits the other thing. That these kids and I used to go to these colleges with Charlie years ago and do this, that it's often young men that are basically just like, what the hell is going on here? Everything in the culture is telling me I'm bad because I'm white and I'm a male and I'm a misogynist and I'm all of these things and the country's bad and everything else. And what they're realizing now, the newer generation that's coming in, is that it's not just about that nihilistic view of the world. It's not just about endlessly feeding your pleasure. It's about something greater. And if we can really start scaling that, then maybe this generation that's in college now, and a lot of them aren't in college, and that's good, but maybe this younger generation that, let's say, is between 15 and 22 right now, that everyone endlessly mocks and everything else, even though we're the ones that handed them the phone and said, good luck with all of that. Maybe they'll be the ones that save this whole thing from going off into the abyss. Like maybe that is possible. Now, what's also interesting is that on the left, as they are in this meltdown phase where they don't know, do we just go with the kind of David Hogg crazies? Do we hang on to the James Carville old people? Is anyone listening to our real old timers like Bill and Hillary or Chuck Schumer or anything else? Do we go with the radicals of AOC and Ilhan and the jihadists? Like they're all over the place. But what that leads to is some people who get everything wrong realizing that they have a real problem on their hands. Like that, I think most people agree with. So here's Nicole Wallace over on the televised mental institution known as MSNBC, and she actually makes a point that Trump has got young men right now, and that's a problem for Democrats.
But the manosphere was sort of the third candidate, right? We had to cover the Trump campaign, we had to cover the Harris campaign, and we had to pay attention to the manosphere. And Trump won in the manosphere, right?
And I think the manosphere is going to be there for the taking if things continue.
All right, so I like that they've named it the manosphere, as if men have their secret special internet. I don't know about that. Is there a secret? Connor said there is a secret. And they're playing Fortnite all the time, and they're drinking, what do you guys drink? You're drinking your Prime, and you're eating your Takis, and you get it all over your plate. Oh, yeah, okay, fine. But it is interesting. They are acknowledging you lost the men. But how did you lose the men? Well, if you kept telling them that they're racist, if you kept telling them their skin color was bad, if you then discriminated against them when it came to getting into college, or you discriminated so that you discriminated them getting into college, you discriminated against them getting into grad school, and then when they got into the real world and they were at jobs, there was something called DEI, and they were discriminated against, again, because of their skin color and their gender. Do you think over time that might piss a couple people off? I think it might, thus leading to the Prime drinking, Taki eating manosphere. The Takis are disgusting, by the way, absolutely disgusting. Joe Scarborough, also on the televised mental institution known as MSNBC, he's acknowledged this as well. And you know, he wants to figure out what do we do with the Democrats, and he wants them to be led by somebody, and he seems to think that AOC is the future.
Rev, nobody ever said that Congress was a meritocracy. I understand that AOC may be more progressive than a lot of people. I also understand that she's one of the most articulate, exciting people in the Democratic field. She goes out with Bernie Sanders, and yeah, she just draws so many people. It's very good, very effective in hearings. We've seen a lot of people.
Very good, very effective in hearings. Look, I guess she's pretty, and she gets on Instagram and does her little off-the-cuff things. Is she bright? No. Does she have a real vision for the country? Is she proud of America? Does she believe in capitalism? Does she care about the Constitution? Where was she for 4 years while we had an invasion, et cetera, et cetera? But you can see they're all testing the ground. Remember a couple of weeks ago, George Clooney was interviewed on CNN, and I kept saying it was just a stopgap. They need to throw up some people every now and again while they figure this all out. That clearly is what they're doing with here. And here you have him basically trying to launder it a little bit with her. He never says she's really bright. He never says that her policies are really great. But he basically is talking about energy. And energy is the thing that drove Trump the first time around. And you could probably argue it's the thing that drove him the second time around, although then there was a lot more just sort of culturally and everything else. But there is definitely a move to sort of anoint her. I hate to tell you, Bernie, but they are done with you. But at least you'll have your private flights. We'll have a bit more on some of the immigration stuff, because there's a really wild story flipping a lot of this on its head that just broke yesterday. But first, Gravity to Fire. You guys know I'm all about logic and reason, and here's some simple logic. If your feet are killing you at the end of the day, you need new shoes. That's why I love G-Defy shoes by Gravity Defier. Their patented Verso Shock technology absorbs harmful shock, returns energy, and is designed to make walking, running, and standing feel effortless. Whether you're out and about or just on your feet all day, G-Defy makes every step better. Right now, my listeners get 30% off orders over $120. Just text Rubin30 to 91888 or visit gdefy.com and use code Rubin30 at checkout. Use logic, choose comfort, G-Defy. All right, so interestingly, you know, we obviously talk about the immigration situation a lot. Well, some immigrants arrived in America yesterday. We've got this from NBC. White South Africans arrive in the U.S. as refugees protected under Trump's carve-out. The newly arrived people arrived from the ethnic minority of Afrikaners, the group of whites who ruled South Africa during apartheid. So that's a little editorializing that they put in the subtitle there. Apartheid did end in South Africa by 1990. That is worth noting. But let's dive into this story a bit more. Here's Trump on why they accepted these couple dozen people.
Because they're being killed, and we don't want to see people be killed. It's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place. And farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me. But white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa. And the newspapers and the media, television media, doesn't even talk about it. If it were the other way around, they'd talk about it.
Notice how casually he says it doesn't matter to me when he's talking about white or black. I 100% believe that about Donald Trump. I don't think he cares. We've covered South Africa for a bit on the show. Probably should do it a little bit more. But you may remember my interview with Robert Herzog. He's a billionaire businessman in South Africa who's become one of the most outspoken leaders in the country, really all over the world, when it comes to what is happening to his country. As a matter of fact, when I did the interview with him in London in February at ARC, Elon tweeted it twice, I think. It went absolutely viral. South Africa was trending because of the interview that we did. Here he is in our interview back from February talking about the 140 race-based laws in Africa, which, yes, happen to all be anti-white.
140 race-based laws in South Africa, all anti-white. And 8 days ago, Cyril Ramaphosa, our president, signed into law, and just hear these three words, expropriation without compensation. And this is just the straw that broke the camel's back. There's been endless laws, anti-white, boiling us like a frog in a bowl. And all I can say is thank you, America, and thank you, Donald Trump, for taking notice, because we are on the edge of the socialist abyss.
Interesting watching that now, him thanking America and thanking Donald Trump, when now only, 2.5 months later, well, there are some refugees arriving. As a matter of fact, we have some refugees arriving, and you're not going to believe this. They have American flags in their hand. Imagine people coming to America legally with American flag. This must be from the Twilight Zone.
And we are excited to welcome you here to our country, where we think you will bloom, and we will hopefully allow you to have fulfilling lives for your children, and then we will bloom and we will benefit alongside you. So thank you very much for coming here.
Yeah. I'd like to add, again, on behalf of President Trump, Secretary Noem, we're just so grateful that you guys are here.
Okay, so a couple things here. First off, I can't speak to all 59 of those people, their beliefs. Now, what I can speak to is there's something interesting there. First off, they speak English. South Africans speak English. That's one interesting thing. So let's go on the assumption that most of them, if not all, speak English. So already there's a way you can integrate into our society a little bit quicker. Now, I don't, like Donald Trump, I don't care if they're black or white or anything else. They are fleeing a level of persecution. Now, just because someone is fleeing a level of persecution does not mean the United States has to let them in. Donald Trump has decided to let these 59 people in. What I definitely could speak to is the makeup of that group, which was young people with a lot of babies and children, and it seemed like it was complete families, as opposed to so much of what we've seen on the other side of this, which was, military fighting age men, somewhere between 20 and 40 in hordes just running. And where are the women? Where are the babies? We some children are being trafficked. But like the optics of this and the fact that they're all holding American flags, and maybe they were given the American flag, then it's just like a prop and whatever. But I think there's something a little bit different about people coming in legally that speak the language with united families. I'm going to guess that most of those people have family in America. We'll find out more about that. In which case, if you're coming from another country and you have a family that will help you out financially, maybe give you a place to live so that you're not on the government dole. But again, we'll find out a bit more about that. I think there's just a much easier argument to make than, I came here illegally. I was dealing fentanyl for a while. I did rape that chick, and I don't have any family here, right? Like, I think there's a fairly obvious difference there. Here's a bit of the mainstream media denying that anything bad is happening in Africa to these people.
Trump has virtually halted refugee admission in America for people fleeing war and famine in places like Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Back with Rick, Mark, and Eddie. Rick Stengel.
Yes, it's so deeply and morally wrong-headed and repulsive. These are the descendants of the people who created the most diabolical system of white supremacy in human history, apartheid.
Trump administration, they're saying that essentially these white South Africans assimilate better, and they're also not as much of a security risk. That's really causing a lot of people to be appalled, frankly. And I also should tell people that this violence that they're talking about that are dealing with these Afrikaners, I've been hearing from people that say there is violence in South Africa, but it's affecting everybody of every single race, Katie.
And they got this big celebration, and these are the only, white African descendants of apartheid, the European colonials, or those who participated in apartheid. They're of all ages, including children.
So what's the difference between the refugees that they're talking about here and those refugees?
I could guess. I mean, I think everyone...
They're white.
They're white. Thank you. They are white.
Everyone that we showed you in those videos is a disgusting, awful human being. And if we could trade those people, we should just start trading. That's going to be the Rubin Report policy from now on. I don't mind if people come here, if you love America and you love freedom and you're going to, fold into the tapestry of this great nation. But we should just start trading cable news hosts for you. Let's get rid of some of these people. Let's do things like that's a good negotiation right there. First off, I would say to the panelists on MSNBC and CNN, if you're so concerned about the people fleeing Sudan and Congo and some of those other countries, I'm going to guess you've got an extra room in your house. Have you thought about putting a Sudanese family in your house? Have you donated any money? Have you done anything, or is it just virtue signaling? That's one thing. Also, this notion that they're the descendants of people who pushed apartheid. Well, as I said, apartheid ended in 1990. Is the implication that those little babies who've come there, and some of those parents looked like they were born after 1990. They didn't look much older than, 20, 25, 30 even. Are you guilty for your parents' sins and your grandparents' sins and your great-grandparents' sins? I mean that you watching this right now. Are you guilty because someone somewhere down the line in your family might have done something? Should we hold that against you? I mean, it's a little bizarre. We bring in MS-13 gang members. They beat their wives with a boot and traffic people here. We don't ask what their ancestors did. I'm going to guess it wasn't great shit either. This is a good video. Just a little bit of a difference between, here's 10 seconds, juxtaposing the difference between these 59 people with families and babies entering the country orderly with American flags and what we've been up against for the last 5 years. Which way, people? Which way? Now, again, I don't know all of the details as to where they are now going to go. Would I want it so that these people are now going to get government benefits? No. Would I like to know that they either have jobs or people that will help take care of them, or that they're bringing in some money so they'll be able to take care of themselves? Yes. Is everything equal all the time? Are there people in Sudan, regardless of their skin color, although it's from Sudan, so most likely black, who want the same opportunity that these people have? Yes. Does it mean we have to give it to everybody? No. No. You got the Scott and the Retards thing queued up? You got it? Let's roll.
There's not a genocide in South Africa.
That's right.
And we have a refugee program.
I am sure there's been violence
against
one side or the other.
There has been violence. Hold on a second. I want to make a point. Violence does not equal genocide. So we need to be really, really clear about that. Because if you look at the violence...
If you're the dead guy, you may not say that.
Okay. So if you think about the history of South Africa, it being under an apartheid system, and that allowed for a racial reconciliation, one that this country has yet to do, but South Africa did it, and they reformed their constitution, and part of that is that the people who are native to that land deserve their rightful land back. That is not what the afrikaners actually want to have happen, which are the white Africans. Now, if the constitution in South Africa is discriminatory, they have their checks and balances in that land, just like we do. And that is for them to. So if the afrikaners don't actually like the land, they can leave that country.
They are. They're leaving to come here.
No.
These refugees are coming here.
They can actually leave and go to where their native land is, which is probably Germany.
Are you against them coming here?
Holland, probably. Holland,
Are you against them coming here?
I'm against the hypocrisy of this administration.
No, that's not the question. The question is, are you against them coming?
I would say that was a gratuitous use of Scott and the retards. It was more just retards, and then Scott checked in at the end. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of stuff here. First off, the Afrikaners, the woman doesn't even know what she's saying. The Afrikaners were not from Germany. They were from Holland. Thank you to the other person who cleaned it up for her. She just doesn't know what she's talking about. They came to South Africa in the mid-1600s. So they've been there, let's say, for over 400 years. So you want to talk about native? What are you talking about? So everyone should go back to where they are natively from. Where's your family from, lady? What right do you have to be in America? And even if your ancestors were slaves and they were forcibly brought here, well, they were forcibly, which is not good, by the way, but they were forcibly brought here by people who came from other places, and we all should go back. So ironically, what these people are doing constantly with this idea of the natives should just be the only one on the land, they are trying to upend every Western society everywhere, that no one will have a right to live anywhere. And ironically, for these lefty dingbats, the place they hate the most, of course, is Israel, which used to be known as Judea back in the time of Jesus, and you're not going to believe who lived in Judea, but nothing they say makes any sense. And again, we're talking about 59 people right now. And if it had been 59 black people, they'd be going crazy and applauding and everything else. So this is another one where Trump is quite good at just exposing their hypocrisy and ridiculousness. This is a meme that I think is worth 1,000 words on all of this one. Up top, you see the pink-haired, rather large, didn't get the Ozempic yet, social justice warrior, refugees welcome. And then, of course, when she sees that they are a white family with children, then suddenly she is a bit unhappy. And that is basically where we are at right now. We will have more on other things happening in the country and the culture in a moment. But first, Upside. In a year like 2025, you've got to be smart with your money. That's why the most valuable app on my phone is the free Upside app. I use it every time I get gas, grab groceries, or eat out. I earn real cash back on all of it. No points, no gimmicks, just money straight to my bank account. The average Upside earner earns up to $280 a year on purchases they're already making. It's that easy. Open the app, claim an offer, pay as usual, and get paid. They work with over 100,000 gas stations, grocery stores, and restaurants, so cash back is always nearby. And right now, when you download Upside and you use my code Rubin, you'll get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank. Just hit the link in the description or scan the QR code to get started. So as you guys know, one of the beautiful things of this country, one of the reasons that everyone still wants to come here from all over the world and nobody leaves except for very rich lesbians like Ellen DeGeneres and Rosie O'Donnell, and someone should be looking into a little bit more on the sociology and psychology behind that, is one of the beautiful things about this country is that we have federalism. We have a country, the United States of America, and then we have these 50 states that act as laboratories of democracy, and they're very different often than each other. Living in Florida, a state of law and order and a flourishing economy, and a slim and trim and effective government and proper policing and all of these things has led to a place that really, I would say, is the promised land of America. You could contrast that with, say, living in Chicago or Illinois, or you could contrast that with living in New York, or of course you could contrast that with living in California. California, which basically has had a Democrat supermajority, which has been run by evil snake person Gavin Newsom for over a decade now, and has been run into the ground by high taxes, which crushes growth. And then what happens is people leave and go elsewhere and do all these things. California, of course, also ushered in more woke nonsense than anyone else. And of course, they also decided that if you were illegal, that we should take money from the legal citizens and give you benefits. You absolutely could argue that that is an illegal activity in and of itself, and the Trump administration has had just about enough of that.
California being investigated by the Department of Homeland Security for allegedly providing federal benefits to immigrants who are in the U.S. illegally. The California Cash Assistance Program is being subpoenaed over the matter. Federal officials are accusing the program of helping migrants receive benefits even though they're not eligible for Social Security. We have reached out to Governor Newsom's office for comment, but have not heard back.
Okay, so I just talked about that laboratory of democracy, and I'm for states doing different things. If someone is in California illegally, now it is up to the federal government, and ICE has every authority to go get them, but if California in and of itself somehow wants, and the people of California somehow create a situation where they want to give their money to illegals, then I suppose they can do that. Now, if the feds come in and stop that from happening, that's fine. What they can't do in California is take federal dollars and then provide it, right? So if you are a Floridian or you're from Montana or from New Jersey and they take your dollars to do that in California, that's a problem. If they want to waste their own freaking dollars on it, I suppose they can, but even there's probably a legal issue for sure. But that's what California has been doing, and that's why over 1 million people have fled California and all of the stuff that we usually know. Now let me contrast that with a state where everything is working. You already know where I'm going. Yeah, I'm right here in Florida. And not only do we have this incredible economy right now and infrastructure that's being built fast and housing that is just exploding all over the state and all of the new people coming in. So there's economic growth and a cultural epicenter and a feeling of success, and which then scales and brings other people in. Well, we're also doing policing right as it pertains to immigration. And here's Florida Governor Ron DeSantis talking about how the Highway Patrol now can conduct immigration raids, which they were working on for months, coordinating with that federal government. Yeah.
Earlier this week, we had more than 100 FHP troopers sworn in as special deputy U.S. Marshals, which is even over and above the 287G. That empowers state troopers to execute federal warrants and to remove dangerous criminal aliens from our communities. Now, as I mentioned, Operation Tidal Wave used Highway Patrol, FDLE, local law enforcement to great effect. What we have now with FHP is that they are able to conduct immigration operations wholly independent of the federal government. And there's no one else in the country where they're doing that. An O.J. Simpson trial for every illegal alien, which, by the way, you can't do, right? It's just implausible. And I think to myself, how did Clinton deport all these illegals? Hell, even Obama had a lot deported. Now, I know Obama, they changed the definition, so inflated his numbers. But like Clinton was in for 8 years. He deported like a couple million people. Did he give a trial to? You wouldn't be able to do that. So you got to be sensible about that. But when you have active orders of removal already done, well, there's nothing even more to debate at that point. And there's probably 800,000 to 1 million throughout the country that are under those similar orders. And so that was really successful.
As always, it's just nice listening to someone tell the truth and have a little bit of knowledge of history and then understand where government should be used and when it should be used. Yeah, Bill Clinton, when he deported several million people, you think they all got trials? No. And did you think the left said anything about it? No. Now it's their scary orange man, so they're freaking out. Obama, same thing, et cetera, et cetera. But what he basically said there was, yeah, there's federal laws and law enforcement as it relates to dealing with illegals, that's ICE. But now we are going to do it as well because we'll be coordinating with them here in Florida. So if we catch you, unlike, say, Wisconsin, where a judge might hide you in a room and get you out the back door when ICE shows up, you gotta go. And the fundamental difference could not be more stark. You can live in a place that respects law and order, that respects the laws of the United States, that respects you as a citizen to live a life that is of your choosing without being endlessly assaulted by either illegals or the drugs that they bring in or all the rest of the crime and mayhem. You get it. You guys get it. And so check out, this is video of the U.S. Coast Guard off the coast of Florida detaining some smugglers just in the last couple days. To be clear, I don't care about the race and the skin color of those guys. They are illegal. They were trying to just show up on our shore, likely to somewhere in Florida, and then wander in. You can't do that. If Connor over here rented a boat today, you like to boat, you like to go fishing? No, you don't? I don't know. No? We're going to take a Rubin Report fishing expedition one of these days. But let's just say Connor, mild-mannered Connor over here, rented a boat. And then we got on the boat and we were just going fishing. We were going to get some nice Florida grouper. The black grouper is a little deeper. We were going. And then Connor was like, you know what? Let's just go to another country. and see what happens. It wouldn't work. They would send us home. And that's what these people have to do. They have to go home. I don't care where they go, frankly, but you can't stay here. It's like the drunk guy at the end of the night at the bar. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Now I like these throwback videos. Here's just a little compilation of Democrats over the years explaining that you can't do any of the things that we're doing right now. You can't defend a border. You can't boot people out of the country. You can't do any of the things that we're literally doing right now, except that you can do it. Watch.
Well, I think there's limited executive actions the president can take. He does not have the legal authority to shut down the border.
A situation at the border that needs to be addressed, but can only be addressed by legislation, not by executive action.
Since day one, the president took action. He did. There is no executive action that would be able to do what this negotiation came out in a bipartisan way.
That's not all I can do. Just give me the power. I've asked for the very day I got in office.
Joe, you had the power. You just didn't know you were the president. Yeah, all of these things, they're all being done legally. One of the very few things that the executive branch is supposed to do is take care of our borders. We're doing it right now. We're getting help from certain states, and then there will just be other places, such as California or cities like Boston, that will keep allowing this mayhem to continue. And then, again, the beauty of America is you, person watching this right now, you just got to decide where you want to live, where you can flourish, where you can raise a family, and where you have a future. It is on you, and that is part of what that pursuit of happiness is about. That felt like the ending of the show, but we're going to continue after I talk to you about lean. Are you a yo-yo dieter? You lose weight, gain it back, plus extra over and over? It's not just frustrating, guys. It's dangerous, raising risks of heart attack, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. That's why doctors created Lean, a non-prescription supplement to break the cycle. Lean's science-backed natural ingredients work 3 ways. They stabilize blood sugar, curb appetite and cravings, and burn fat by turning it into energy. Tired of the weight loss roller coaster? Lean helps you lose weight steadily and healthily. Get started with 20% off using code Rubin20 at takelean.com. That's Rubin20 at takelean.com. All right, so another thing that we really do well in America, that we've done better than any society in quite literally the history of the world, is that we've taken people from everywhere. I talk about this all the time, but it is worth driving home. We've taken people from every walk of life, every corner of the world, every language, every ethnicity, every skin color, every gender, every genital. We've taken them all, we've brought them into America. And by and large, we're in our 248th year. And in 248 years, we have done more good for more people. We have unleashed the human spirit in a way that our ancestors would not even believe if they could look at us right now, the flourishing that America has allowed for, right? And to put so many people on that path, that pursuit to happiness. Now, in Europe and in many other places, they did not do this that well. They said, oh, you have your language, you have your customs, you're going to kind of live here and you'll be a little bit separate. We're all we all live in London, or we live in England, or we live in France, or we live in Germany, but we're very, very separate, actually. We did it right here. Now, unfortunately, there's been an awful lot of people, and it usually comes from the left, which is why the jihadi crew is always mixing with the left. They'll behead them at the end, but they realize, we can take these people with suicidal empathy, the soft underbelly of liberalism who are so tolerant, and we can usher in all of our bad ideas that way. And this is what's been going on in Texas. This is a tweet from this is a tweet from the Pam Bondi commentary account, not from Pam Bondi officially. But listen to this. Breaking. Governor Greg Abbott, Texas governor, has officially halted construction of the 402-acre Muslim-only Epic City in Texas. Now, I covered this a couple weeks ago, that Epic City was going to be a Muslim-only city outside of Dallas, right on the outskirts of Dallas. They were talking about how they were going to make it Muslim only. It's antithetical to the Constitution of the United States. It's completely counter to everything that any of our ancestors ever came to America before, or at least most of our ancestors came to America before. But don't take my word for it. Here's a portion of the video from the Epic City backers, funders.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, I'm sure many of you have heard of the amazing project that we're doing known as Epic Cities. We are, alhamdulillah, constructing an entire city half an hour from downtown Dallas, literally 30 minutes from our own Plano Masjid over here. It's going to be a city of over 1,000 people. Alhamdulillah, we launched this website last year and we sold the entire phase 1 within days. Because of the demand, we are now opening up Epic Ranches. Epic Ranches is an exclusive opportunity for those who want to be within minutes of Epic City, but also want larger plots. We have 2 Epic Ranches. Epic Ranches 1 begins with 1 acreage and goes up to 5 acreage. And Epic Ranches 2 has plots of ½ acre and also investment opportunities for those who want to build condominiums. Brothers and sisters, this is a limited time opportunity. It is an amazing time to invest for the future, not only in yourselves, but of your children after you. We are inshallah ta'ala going to change the entire da'wah scene by demonstrating to the world what it means to be a Muslim living in the West.
Well, I don't think it means to be a Muslim living in the West. It means that you get to have your own city where other people can't come, where if you buy a house there, that some of the money has to go to the local mosque or anything else. That's actually completely antithetical to the American belief system. But this has been going on, and there's been a big fight about it now. And by the way, putting aside, okay, so they're not going to allow Muslims there. How do you think it's going to work for women in a community like that? How do you think it's going to work for gays in a community like that? Putting aside that they're not going to sell houses to Christians or Jews or Baha'i or Jainists or anything else. This is not what America is founded upon. By the way, you might be watching that going, but well, wait a minute, there's Koreatown in New York City, or there's Chinatown, or there's areas of Brooklyn where more Jews live. Yeah, but you can't make a whole community and say, okay, we're not going to sell to these other people, or we're going to take some of your mortgage payments and give it to the local mosques, et cetera, et cetera. So you see, again, they're using our system against us. Amy Meck, who is the founder of Rise, Align, Ignite, Reclaim Foundation, she has been talking about this story for years and years. And here's a bit more on what's going on there. She wrote, Allahu Akbar, Texas, a new Sharia city near Dallas. This is how no-go zones begin. This is how the West falls. Radical Imam Yasir Qadhi, a terror-linked extremist, is now building Epic City, a 1,000-plus home of his Islamic stronghold just 30 minutes from Dallas, complete with Sharia-compliant schools, a mosque, and commercial hubs. And he's selling it to non-Americans, pushing an Islamic separatist agenda right here in the heart of Texas. Declared, Jews and Christians are filthy and that their lives and property can be taken in jihad. Justified taking women as sex slaves in war. Bragged about the Muslim takeover of Sweden, calling birth rate a halal secret weapon. Raised funds for Hamas-linked charities. Was placed on the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's terrorist watch list. Graduated from the radical Islamic University of Medina. Denies the Holocaust, promoting the book, The Hoax of the Holocaust, and claiming Hitler never intended to mass destroy the Jews. Quoted the anti-Semitic forgery Protocols of the Elders of Zion to argue that Jews have no right to Israel. Supports replacing democracy with Sharia, calling the U.S. a pharaonic society built on slavery. Was an acolyte of Ali al-Tamimi, the Virginia-based imam currently serving life in prison for inciting jihad against U.S. troops. Will Americans push back, or will Texas become the next Malmo? Why are Republicans not speaking out? Well, first off, this imam sounds like he's going to be the next leader of the Democratic Party. But yes, Texans have had enough. They have had enough. They started looking into this. They started looking into the terror ties. They started looking into, can we have a Sharia compliant city? Is Sharia law compliant with the Constitution of the United States? Is it okay to build, if I bought a plot of land, just think about it this way. If I bought a plot of land, I bought a 1 acre plot of land, I split it into 4 quarter-acre plots, and I was like, I'm only going to sell them to white people, or I'm only going to sell them to black people. Would that be legal? Would you want that? Would that be in line with American values? I think we all know the answer to that. Finally, anyway, after weeks of this story just bubbling online and very few shows talking about it, because every time I talk about it, it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about. People are going to call you racist and everything else, but enough of this bullshit at this point. Finally, this has burst forth into the mainstream, and Texas Governor Greg Abbott discussed it with Laura Ingraham last night.
Well, in part by that statement, but also in part by information that we've gathered, there appear to be multiple violations that have taken place here. One is information has been provided to investors that appears to be misleading. Another is they appear to be in violation of fair housing laws. Also, we found that You know, they talk about doing all this building, but they don't have any building permits to actually do any building, and they have challenges even getting those building permits. Believe this or not, we've even received information that they may have been conducting a funeral home without legal authority. Bottom line, Laura, is that there so many questions arose, especially information that we received, that led us to need to call the elite Texas Rangers to conduct a criminal investigation to find out if criminal laws in Texas have been violated.
Putting aside breaking of the law for a second, do you see why I'm trying to connect this to what's going on in Europe right now? We've done it right in this country. And do you want America to just be this like dissected place where different people will live in different areas, and which you know ultimately will become warring factions? The promise of America was we took past warring factions and past religious hatreds and ethnic animosity and all of these things, and we brought everybody to America and we cleaned it up. And now there is a certain type of person that is using the tolerance of the left to use all of our laws and goodness and goodwill towards man against us. And we better figure it out. Here's another video, because it's not just Texas, Michigan. You know about Dearborn, Michigan. But here are two Muslims in Michigan talking about how when they create these cities, that they can use loopholes to make sure that non-Muslims won't show up.
So we're still debating on the name, but it's going to be something Muslim name and a village attached to it, right? The names of the streets, Khalid ibn al-Walid, Tariq bin Ziyad, like all the great conquerors. Like people need to Google those conquerors, and then we want to have different sections like Andalusia, this, that, like all our past glories, and we want to bring it back. The way what we're doing, brother, like you cannot make it exclusive, like non-Muslims not allowed, Kuffar not allowed. What we're doing, there's something called association fee. I don't know what it's called in Dubai. Like your maintenance fee that you pay yearly, cutting the service fee, to cut the grass, to remove the snow and whatnot. So that service fee will put there 75% of the service fee you're paying goes to the masjid. Brother, we're putting an application now where we're selecting the names of the streets in the United States of America.
Do I have to comment on this? I mean, do you see what they are doing? They're telling you, here's how we're going to cheat the system. And would you like to live in a town where Muslim conquerors have streets named after them? Do you want to live in a town where you're paying your homeowners association fee or whatever they want to call it, and you find out that that money is going to a radical mosque? Do you want any of that? And again, do you just think that any of that has anything to do with America, what the promise of America is? So look, we've been dealing with getting illegals out, but we have another problem on our hands of potential. I don't know that those guys are legal or not, or what they are, or even if they're citizens, but we have another problem on our hands that we are going to have to deal with. And unfortunately, this is going to be something that's going to be punted for a while because we can only do so many things at once. But at least, at the very least, Texas is doing something about it right now. Let's jump over to the Middle East for a moment, because Donald Trump is in Saudi Arabia right now. He landed just in the last couple hours. There's a lot of things happening. This is all to the backdrop of that last American hostage being released, Eden Alexander from New Jersey. But now we've got some info on where we're at and everything else. Quote from Fox News, Qatar's royal family offered to donate a jumbo jet to the Department of Defense that could serve as Air Force One, but a White House official said the offer has not been accepted, Fox News has learned. Earlier Sunday, ABC News reported that President Trump was poised to accept the $400 million Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet and would use it until the end of his term, when it would be given to his presidential library. Trump is believed to be frustrated with Boeing's delays in producing a new presidential plane. A White House official told Fox News the gift will not be presented or accepted when Trump visits Doha this week. But the White House stopped short of denying altogether that Trump may take possession of the plane at some point. Okay. So there's a bunch of things to talk about here. So Qatar, first off, Qatar is a tiny little country that basically has nothing but money via oil. It has a huge American military base right there. And if it didn't have that base, would basically just be nothing. Now, Qatar also, we know for the first couple of years of this post-October 7th war, was housing the leadership of Hamas, which are several of them are billionaires, and they were staying in five-star hotels. Eventually, they've been kicked out, and now they're over at Turkey, which is a NATO ally, which makes no sense. Qatar has also funded Al Jazeera, which has spread anti-Western propaganda all over the country, including the United States. It's really not a great country. Now, as to the gift of the plane, there's some questions as to whether they're going to do it. It's not to be clear, it's not a gift to Donald Trump himself. It would be a gift to America. You could argue in the same way that, say, the Statue of Liberty was a gift from France. And after being on the plane for a couple of years, it would go to the potential Trump museum, right? Presidents all get their presidential museum after. Now, if it was a gift to Trump, there'd be some feelings of quid pro quo and everything. Anyway, it all feels kind of dirty, right? Like if any country was just like, oh, we're going to give you a $400 million plane. Now, Boeing has huge problems. It's taking Boeing in America, it's taking them decades to build planes at this point. There's a huge clusterfuck over there for sure. But you just do have to think about it this way. Like, is it optics-wise, if nothing else, is this a good idea? Now, I would also say that relative to everything going on in the Middle East right now, Trump is trying to make major moves here. So maybe he's doing a little good cop, bad cop with all of these. I don't want to judge it too much right now. It feels like a misstep, but I do want to give a little grace here because he's in Saudi Arabia right now. He just got an American hostage back. Maybe he's trying to close other deals and he's trying to change what the Middle East looks like, which, by the way, he did. Remember the Abraham Accords from the first time he was around. So I think he gets a little bit of grace here. Here he is saying that the jet from Qatar was a great gesture.
On Qatar, has Qatar asked for anything in exchange for that $400 million luxury jumbo jet? And how can the American people be so sure that they will not in the future?
Well, I think what happens with the plane is that, we're very disappointed that it's taking Boeing so long to build a new Air Force One. We have an Air Force One that's 40 years old. And if you take a look at that compared to the new plane of the equivalent stature at the time, it's not even the same ballgame. You look at some of the Arab countries and the planes they have parked alongside of the United States of America plane. It's like from a different planet.
Mr. President, what do you say to people who view that luxury jet as a personal gift to you? Why not leave it behind?
You're ABC fake news, right?
Why not?
Only ABC, well, a few of you would. Let me tell you, you should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us, I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much.
Okay, so look, part of the question here is, do you think Donald Trump can be bought at this point, right? Like, are the Qataris basically like, we'll give him a jet and then he'll do stuff for us? That kind of seems unlikely, but is it possible they're doing a gesture because they realize that Donald Trump is reordering the Middle East right now, right? Countries are lining up against Iran. Hezbollah doesn't exist anymore. We just took out the Houthis in Yemen. Like the Israel-Hamas thing is going to resolve itself at some point. Could the Abraham Accords be expanded? Could Saudi Arabia get in there? Well, Donald Trump's in Saudi Arabia right now. So I don't know exactly what to make of this. I just think everyone should just like calm down the hysteria for a moment. And I also think what he said there at the end is kind of right. It's like, we are having a hell of a time building planes, Boeing building planes. And it's like, if somebody's going to give us a plane, now, could it have spyware on it? Like, there's all sorts of stuff to think about. Anyway, I'm going to leave that part there because, yes, Donald Trump did just land in Saudi Arabia. Here's the headline from Reuters. Trump starts Gulf visit in Saudi Arabia, focus on mega economic deals. And there he is getting off the plane in Saudi Arabia. I mean, the guy just does not tire. He walks down, he shakes a couple hands, and it's all good. Here is, so where are we? Where are we? Planes are coming in. We're banning Muslim cities. We've got the border being taken care of. We're bringing white afrikaners. Like, today's show was a little bit of everything. But I want to bring it home and tie it together, going back to a clip I showed you earlier, that maybe we need to be a little better than we've been over the last couple of years, right? It's sort of that David Hogg thing. It like, all right, go out and get laid and have fun. Okay, that's fine. That's one way to do the world. Or maybe we could try to do things that are a little more mature. My sense at the moment is not that Donald Trump is selling us out over a plane or anything else. My sense at the moment is he's trying to rethink the way the world works. The Middle East has been a quagmire of insanity and extremism for a long time, and he's at least trying something a little bit different. I think he's actually trying to pursue peace. And maybe that peace can never come. Like, maybe it really is just so effed over there that it can never come. And maybe ancient hatreds are just too deep, and maybe it cannot. But maybe there's a chance you could get the Gulf states that really have modernized, like the UAE. Maybe you could bring in Qatar into that. Maybe you get Saudi Arabia to normalize with Israel. And then basically the jihadis will have a real alliance against them, and that some of the stuff will start melting away. So how do you do that? Well, it literally starts with all of us, like stepping up a little bit more. I think what we've seen with Trump 2.0 is him stepping up and trying to be a little better than he was the first time. And we're seeing the fruits of that. So now let's connect that to that Charlie clip we showed you earlier.
They're looking for something greater, something higher. They're in the pursuit of something good and true and beautiful. Remember, if you're on a college campus right now, the very young people that we at Turning Point USA are winning over, large in part thanks to President Trump, you suffered under the lies and the deception of COVID, of wearing a mask while you shower, of the 9th booster shot, of the hyper-policing of every pronoun and every syllable that you say. And they want something greater than that.
So I hope we connected this properly, but we can either do everything the old way. You can listen to the old people who tell you this is how you do Middle East peace, and we can tell you this is how you put on a mask during a pandemic, and all of the old ways of doing things, or we could try things a little bit differently. And I suspect that that's what Donald Trump is doing right now. And the reason he's doing that is something has happened to Trump. Maybe it was the assassination attempt, that I really think he is on his mission. He's following the path he is supposed to be on. That you can say that's a spiritual thing, or you could say it's purely tactile for him, or whatever you want to call it. But I think he is doing that. And I thought we'd end the show today with a quote from Jordan Peterson. This is from his first book, Maps of Meaning, which for those of you, I have the book, and even I had trouble getting through it. It is a dense, pre-Jordan Peterson, the way we all know him now, trying to really lay out his ideas and the spiritual set with the secular set and how these things line up. And that's what the Maps of Meaning are all about. But listen to this line. He says, "Interest is a spirit beckoning from the unknown, a spirit calling from outside the walls of society. Pursuit of interest means journeying outside the protective walls of childhood dependence and adolescent group identification and returning to rejuvenate society. This means that the pursuit of individual interest, development of true individuality, is equivalent to identification with the hero. Such identification renders the world bearable despite its tragedies." That's what the hero's journey is, guys, right? Maybe Donald Trump's on a little bit of a hero's journey. Maybe you need to be on a little bit of a hero's journey, so that whether the Democrats go completely insane, or if something goes off the rails with the Republicans, or the zombie apocalypse comes, or the aliens invade, you will be a little bit more prepared for it. And that's what I think about that. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. RubinReport.locals.com in 30 seconds for the post-game show, and then I'm off to Texas, University of Austin this evening, and I will be wandering around in the sweltering heat tomorrow doing all sorts of podcasts and other stuff. Maybe I'll see you there. All right, ciao.